Thank you, and thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. The impetus was kind of my upbringing, and certain things that happened. I'm the kid from Burbank, not California, and I say that in the book. And great parents, humble beginnings, and for somebody like me to be able to make it to Wall Street. A top job on merit in Washington, D.C. And then the real impetus was at the end of March in 2019, I was admitted to the United States Supreme Court Bar. And that was probably the most meaningful day in my professional career to have achieved that. And it was on the plane ride home that, several years I thought about writing a book, but you're working 60 hours a week for 34 years and you don't have time, you don't think about it, you don't have time to think about it. And on that plane ride back, it came to me that I really needed to do this book. And the other impetus for it was my parents passed away when my nephews were really young. And I wanted them to know more about the family and to know their accomplishments too. Picture this: one nun, 50 kids, Catholic school in the early 60s. The girls had to sit in back. It's just the way it was. And they didn't do eye tests before kids went to school at the time. And so nobody knew if kids could see or not. And I was severely nearsighted. They learned, later, at some point in the first grade, they learned. But the nuns broke kids up into 3 tracks. They put me in what was called the D track. Well, all the kids called it the dummy track. And I stayed there for 12 years. At some point, you just stopped trying. I wasn't going to get to go to college because my parents, didn't think I was trying hard enough, because at that point I wasn't. It wasn't that they were cheap, but I begged them for a chance to go. And they said, we'll give you a semester. You have to find a way to pay half of it. And the first day in political science, the professor, Doc Clark, said, is there anybody here, my first question, does anybody here want to go to law school? And I raised my hand thinking nobody's going to believe me. He said, you look smart, I'm going to help you get there. And that was it. There was no turning back. And I graduated from college magna cum laude in 3 years, went on to law school. And this kid that they labeled a dummy, and I don't blame them, it's just the way things were at the time. And so this kid made it to be general counsel on Wall Street, a top merit position in Washington, D.C., and then the United States Supreme Court Bar. It's a story about me, it's a story about me. And, just kind of like the kid from Burbank, not California, each step. And this isn't a woman's book. It's really a gender-neutral book. I have to say, I didn't have a glass ceiling. There was one job I really wanted and out of law school, and thankfully I didn't get it. I wanted to work for a labor law firm. And the partner called me and said that there were 2 equally qualified candidates, and I was one of them. But the other was a guy, and he was going to have to support a family. And so they were going to pick him. And, I wasn't mad. I was glad that he called and he had the integrity to tell me that it wasn't like I wasn't good enough. He just the opposite. And so, but I think, maybe I had to work a little harder, to get the jobs and to get the promotions, but it made me a better lawyer. So, kind of those experiences, through the way, there were a couple, and there were some bad actors, people who tried to derail my career, sabotage me, backstab me, but the book is fiction. Book is fiction. I'm admitted to the Illinois bar, and I can practice in the Illinois circuit courts. I can appear in front of the United States Supreme Court. It's just like this highest, for me, it's just this highest honor. Several other lawyers have it. A lot of people in D.C. have it, but for somebody like me, it's really, for me, it's a very meaningful thing. I'm really proud of the work that I did at the CFTC. I was there for 2 years. It was a merit appointment, not a political appointment. I got it on merit. And the gentleman who was running the CFTC at the time, the chairman, he wanted somebody with industry experience because things can kind of get stuck in the mud. So he wanted somebody with industry experience and management experience. And I had previously, as a global head of compliance and anti-money laundering, I led a team of 70 people in 12 countries. And I loved mentoring. I loved team building. And so he wanted somebody with those skills, and I got the job. I went to Washington to single-handedly, maybe foolishly, but to single-handedly fix some regulations that weren't helping and that were doing more harm to businesses than good. And never anything in the customer protection area. I wouldn't weaken customer protections for segregated funds, but some of this stuff in Dodd-Frank just went too far. And I had an incredible team of dedicated attorneys, brilliant, working with me, supporting me, and we were able to achieve just amazing things, working round the clock. I think, between the advisories and the no action letters, which is giving relief to endowments and institutions and helping NFA, helping them, giving them the tools that they were begging for, to better do their job, and things that were just getting held up. And so that was my mission. And I think we did more than 90 no action letters between no action and advisory. That's a lot in 2 years. But I'm happy about it. And again, thanks and credit to my team and their support. And they're just brilliant lawyers and accountants and regulatory professionals. I left at the end of September in 2017, the end of the 2 years. Very little has happened at the CFTC since then, and things have, in my opinion, and I'm not criticizing, although maybe I am. Things are being held up. Things just are not moving. I think the new chairman is, trying to move some things, but in the past 2 years, really nothing. A little more than 2 years, nothing has really happened, and I think that's frustrating for staff who works hard to move things. I know I had finished things before I left that are just sitting there and then never got advanced, and no, I don't think enough is being done. I really don't. And I think the industry deserves to have some of that relief. I had the best career opportunities. I'm so lucky. I started at NFA as just a little staff lawyer, and I made it to be general counsel on a primary dealer in the government securities markets, Aubrey Lanston. All that's fascinating stuff. Billions and billions of dollars that are transacted in government securities. I was, at the CME for 8.5 years. I was the Globex lawyer, okay? So, I'm the gal who wrote the Globex rules. Some others participated, of course. I'm not taking full credit for that, but that was my full-time job for a number of years to launch that. And to get to see a project like that is just incredible. And then to be the global head of compliance and AML with, a team, really a team working together, and then to culminate at the CFTC. And I'm running my regulatory consulting business now, which I love. I'm not working with any jerks, okay? I've decided I'm only going to work with people. I don't need to do this. I haven't needed to do this. I don't need to do this. I'm only going to work with people I like, excuse me, and whose ethics are consistent with mine. So that's what I'm doing. And so then it also gives me some flexibility to write a book. The biggest challenge for me, not being a professional, a book writer, although I'd written, briefs and things like that, and rulemakings, but the biggest challenge was finding my voice. Because, I write in the first person, but I kept trying to write it differently. And then when I realized, no, this is my story, this is about me, I need to do this in the first person to tell the story and the career path and the progression and the bad fictional actors along the way. That was the toughest part. Once I got that together, it took me 2 months people ask me, how long did it take you to write a book? I'm like, 2 months. 2 months once I condensed that and once I found my voice. And then the other second biggest challenge was finding a publisher. People can spend a decade trying to find a publisher. The Simons and Schusters, they're not going to look at Eileen. Who am I? But a former colleague has a publishing company, and he's now publishing, third-party books, which I believe I'm the first, and he's really good. And so it's like this great combination, that just kind of came together, and it so far so good.
This has been a production from John Lothian News.